Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janvalabha Giri Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Satashimadhi Divine Graces Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Antarashimam Bhagavatam Ki Sri Nityananda Tradoyashi Mahamahotsava Ki Tai Gaura Premanandi. Oh glories to the assembled devotees, oh glories to the assembled devotees, oh glories to the assembled devotees, oh glories to Shishi Guru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 57. I think the title is The Murder, not the murder or something, of Satyajit, the killing of Satyajit. And the text is number 1. Sri Badarajanir Uvacha Vyatharto Vyanatharto Govindo Dagdhan Akarnya Pandavam Kuntincha Kulyakarane Saharamo Jajau Kurum. Sri Badarajanir Uvacha Vigyatharthopi Govindo Dagdhang Akarnya Pandavam Kuntincha Kulyakarane Saharamo Jajau Kurum. Sri Badarajanir Uvacha Vigyatharthopi Govindo Dagdhang Akarnya Pandavam Kuntincha Kulyakarane Saharamo Jajau Kurum. Christian. Sri Badarajani Uvacha. Sri Sukadev Goswami, the son of Badarajana, said, Vigyata, aware, Artha, of the facts, Api, although, Govindaha, Lord Krishna, Dagdhan, burned to death, Akarnya, hearing, Pandavam, the sons of Pandu, Kuntim, their mother, Kunti, Cha, and Kulia, family obligations, Karane, to carry out, Saharamaha, together with Lord Balaram, Jajau, when Kurum, to the kingdom of the Kurus. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Sri Badarajani said, although Lord Govinda was fully aware of what had actually occurred, when he heard reports that the Pandavas and Queen Kunti had burned to death, he went with Lord Balaram to the kingdom of the Kurus to fulfill the family obligations expected of him. Purport. The Lord was quite aware that the Pandavas had escaped the assassination plot of Duryodhana, although the world heard the false news that the Pandavas and their mother had perished in the fire. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Ramapada Swami Iti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadeshatarine. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo. I should read the chapter summary by Srila Prabhupada, or by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, I'm sorry. So, the chapter is entitled Satyajit Murder, the Jewel Return. This chapter describes how Lord Krishna, after the murder of Satyajit, killed Satadandva, Danva, and had Akrura bring the Shamantaka Jew back to Dwarka. When Lord Sri Krishna heard that the Pandavas had supposedly been burned to death in the palace of Lak, he went to Hastinapura with Lord Baladev to maintain the principles of worldly protocol, even though, being omniscient, he knew the report was false. With Krishna out of Dwarka, Akrura and Kritavarma incited Satadhanva to steal the Shamantakaju from Satyajit. Bewildered by their words, the sinful Satadhandva murdered King Satyajit in his sleep and stole the gem. Queen Satyabhama was overcome with grief at the death of her father, and she rushed to Hastinapur to report the sorrowful news to Sri Krishna. Together with Lord Baladev, Krishna returned to Dwarka to kill Satadhandva. Satadhandva went to Akrura and Kritavarma to beg for help, but when they refused, he left the jewel with Akrura and fled for his life. Krishna and Balaram pursued him, and Lord Krishna beheaded him with his sharp-edged disc. When the Lord could not find the Syamantaka jewel on Satadwanda's person, Baladev told him that Satadwanda must have left it in someone's care. Baladev further suggests that Krishna returned to Dwarka to find the jewel, while he, Baladev, would take the opportunity to visit the king of Videha. Thus Lord Balaram traveled to Mithila and remained there for a few years, during which he taught King Duryodhan the art of fighting with a club. Lord Krishna returned to Dwarka and had the funeral rites performed for Satyajit. When Akrura and Kritavarma heard how Satadwanda had met his death, they fled Dwarka. Soon many kinds of disturbances, mental, physical, and so on, began to afflict Dwarka. And the citizens concluded that the cause of these troubles must be Akrura's exile. The city elders explained, quote, once there was a drought in Benares, and the king of the region gave his daughter in marriage to Akrura's father, who was visiting Benares at the time. As a result of this gift, the drought ended. End of quote. The elders, thinking Akrura has the same powers as his father, declared that Akrura should be brought back. Lord Krishna knew that Akrura's exile was not the main cause of the disturbance. Still, he had Akrura brought back to Dwarka, and after properly honoring him with worship and greeting him with sweet words, Krishna told him, quote, I know Satadandwa left the jewel in your care. Since Satrajit had no sons, his daughter's offspring are the just claimants to whatever property he have left behind. Nonetheless, it will be best for you to keep the troublesome jewel in your care. Just let me show it once to my relative. End of quote. Akrura presented Krishna with the jewel, which shone as brilliantly as the sun. And after the Lord has shown it to his family members, he returned it to Akrura. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse. The seventh chapter, the 57th chapter, describes the killing of Satrajit, Krishna killing Satadandva, and receiving the jewel from Akrura. As the jewel was the cause of the deaths of Satrajit, the lesson taught is that the object, which is ordinarily one's protector, can also kill one if one offends Krishna. So this was discussed yesterday. This very important lesson was discussed yesterday by my wife, Krishna Archana, giving the class. That the gift of this Shamantaka jewel was an incredible, wonderful gift that the sun god has placed, on his devotee Satyajit, King Satyajit, and the type of benefits, the type of opulence that came from this jewel was inconceivable, was very, very wonderful. So it was not only producing wealth, but also all kinds of auspicious results. Specifically, there was no untimely death when this jewel was in whatever this jewel was worship or being care. There was no how you say uh, factions and disturbances with people, trying to do politics or deceiving or all these things that causes all kinds of anxiety. So, in other words, wherever this jewel was, there was no type of material anxiety. That much, was basically. There was no anxieties caused by other people and their intrigues and things like that. There was not even, anxieties with the body all of a sudden, suddenly die or something like that. And there was no anxieties with wealth. So, but it is explained here. The principle is that those things that we receive in this material world that are the cause of any type of protection, of benefit, if one offends Krishna, they actually turn around and becomes the cause of one's, this, how you say, um, this, yeah, demise, one's demise. And that's a very sobering principle that is there, and one have to. So yesterday there was this part of the discussion, and just to reaffirm that, we hear that in chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna explains to Arjuna how the principle of obtaining anything desirable in this world, anything that is desirable for living happily and having sort of prosperity in this world, and at the same time being able to elevate one consciousness to the point of self-realization. These two things, how that system is achieved. And Krishna says that in the beginning of this creation, he sent forth mans and demigods. So there is there is the administrators of the material world, and there is the citizen of this material world, the living entities, man and demigods. And then he blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy," both of them. So it's a symbiotic type of relationship that is there. Be thou happy by this system of sacrifice, yajna. So the system of yajna, of sacrifice, is there established by Krishna. By the performance of this yajna, you will obtain everything desirable in this world for living happily and prosperous, with prosperity in this world, and at the end, being able to go back home, back to God, if one applies the principle of yajna. So the question is, what is this principle of yajna? How we don't understand? So Krishna explains is Jagyartan, that everything, every Jagya should be offered to Krishna. He is the ultimately beneficiary of all Jagyas, of all sacrifices. Bhaktaram Jagya Tapasa. Krishna says later in the Gita that I am the supreme enjoyer of all Jagyas. All Jagyas are meant for his satisfaction. When one does not do that, then Krishna explains in the third chapter that if we do not offer the benefit or the results of yajna, if they are not offered to Krishna, then karma bandhana happens. Then one becomes entangled in this um, this system of actions and reactions, karma bandhana. One becomes, bandha means one becomes tied or um, imprisoned by this karma bandhan, by karma, by actions and reactions. So that is the principle. Everything one has, everything one's received is to be offered to Krishna. When we don't do that, then in one sense is going against the system that Krishna has given. It's almost like deciding that you're not following the law of the state. So every type of structure has laws. And with laws, there is not only guarantees order, but what does order give to the living entities, but actually a very peaceful way to exist and to carry on whatever they have to do. So it is important to have this system of law and order. And the universe is like that. Yeah, the universe is like that. The universe is a very perfectly organized system. And Krishna has given the laws, they're called dharma, the laws of dharma. Dharmas tu Bhagavan Pranitam. That Krishna is the one, the giver of these laws, of these principles of religion. And therefore, if we decide, consciously and unconsciously, to not follow the laws, then there's going to be some punishment, naturally. That's something that happens just naturally. So the arrangement in this world is like that. That there is a system of sacrifice. You may say it's a system of tax. So there are certain things that you have to acknowledge that you've been protected and you're part of a system and you act according to that system. Now, when we don't do that, with dividing, or in one sense, dismissing the laws of the state. And with that, is an offense. That's why, when you break the law, you have committed an offense towards the state and you're punishable. So, so in this case, this is what happened. This is such a graphic example of receiving something so beneficial. And just because of that moment that you become, I mean, Krishna says, in Krishna tells Akrura that, actually you keep this very troublesome jewel. Krishna labels us as troublesome. Why troublesome? Because the material benefits that it offers can, it was shown how it can bewilder anyone, even someone as Akrura, a pure devotee. Of course, we have to understand this. Akrura is a pure devotee of the Lord. And when a pure devotee appears to be bewildered by some circumstance, is to be understood that they're simply being induced by the Lord to have this type of, uh, um, situation to facilitate the pastimes of the Lord. They're very much facilitating that. However, we see the amount of trouble that goes first with Satyajit, then with Prasena, the brother. Then, there's a whole one after another things that were caused just by the enticement of this jewel. Kritavarma and Akrura, and then Satadandva. All these persons were somehow or other being taken by 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 this jewel. So when Satyajit made that choice, that decision, being bewildered by the possession of this jewel, to dismiss Krishna, because that was the moment when Krishna said, "It's very wonderful that you have received this jewel, and now that you have it, it will be appropriate that you give this jewel to King Ugrasena." So Krishna it was a direction directly. He's speaking. The Supreme Personality of God is saying, "You please do this." And he's saying, "No." That moment, that jewel became, from being the something that will protect him and that will enhance, whatever, facilitate, do all these kinds of wonderful things to this personality, became the cause of his demise. And not only that, everything that got touched by that jewel became, under that choice, became finished. So both Satyajit and his brother, because of their demise. So that moment of choice that we have, my spiritual master once had this retreat that it was focused on say yes to Krishna. Say yes to Krishna. When Krishna is instructing us through the scriptures, through the acharyas, through his representatives, through the devotees, then to have our heart open to say yes to Krishna. Now, the question you may ask is, how do we know, when Krishna is asking us? And the answer is that because Krishna from within the heart, once you have that attitude, once you have that service attitude, that mood, then from within the heart, Krishna gives intelligence. If we don't, on the contrary, if our motivation is not say yes to Krishna, but say yes to my, personal things, then Krishna will give you the intelligence to actually be able to continue to that path. And so whatever you see will confirm that. Whatever you hear will confirm your desires. So you have a desire. If I have a desire for this particular situation, this will make me happy. Then whatever you hear, whatever you read, whatever things that you see in the will confirm, yes, go that way. So it's quite tricky. I'm going to read for you, because I also want to glorify Lord Nityananda a little bit. We're going to hear tonight His Holiness Ramapada Swami speaking about the glories of Lord Nityananda. But on that same principle of making that choice of dismissing Krishna's order, of Krishna's directions, either out of weakness of heart or out of just plain ignorance. Once we do that, then what happens to things that we have, benefits that we have received from the performance of devotional service? How those things can turn around and create more obstacles in the path of devotional service. Even the chanting of the holy name. This is what I'm going to read. This is Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur commenting on this in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta making comments on this particular principle. So I read for you. Because one thing that we know is that what is the biggest offense that we can do to Krishna? Krishna can tolerate offenses directly to himself. When we offend a devotee of Krishna, that's the greatest offense. That he doesn't take lightly. So the danger of offending devotees is the title of this. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Kanda, and with the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Translation. So this is a Madhya Kanda, chapter 10, text 29 and 30. Translation. Lord Chaitanya said, "Listen, everyone. Anyone who blasphemes Murari will not be delivered even if it takes millions of baths in the Ganges. Neither the Ganges nor the holy names of Hari will nullify his sins." We recite in every morning the 10 offenses, and one of them is the first one is this to blaspheme the devotees who are dedicating the life in the propagation of the holy name. Not even the holy name. Commentary. This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. In order to remove the sinful mentality of those proud persons who are envious of the devotees and who blaspheme the devotees while considering themselves engaged in taking bath in the Ganges and in chanting the names of Hari, Mahaprabhu said, if a person knowingly or unknowingly blaspheme a devotee constantly engaged in the service of the Lord, like Murari, and becomes envious of the devotees by claiming to have taken shelter of Harinam and the Ganges, then the Ganges and the holy names destroy such a sinful person rather than award him any benefit. Quite something, no? This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta saying. Even today, the place of Murari Gupta is found in Siddham, Mayapur, in the tract of land between the residential areas of the Muslim and the Hindus. Those proud persons who blaspheme Murari Gupta by expressing hatred for the present pathetic condition of his place show disrespect for the Dham and cannot obtain any benefit from the waters that have emanated from the feet of Vishnu. The syllables of Lord Hari's holy names, Nama Aparad, that they have received from the unauthorized gurus, vanquish such people by converting them into sense enjoyers birth after birth. Envy of Vaishnavas produce such a formidable poisonous result. Such people commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy names, and as offenders of the holy names, they fall into the jaws of death. If such people taking bath in the waters of the Ganges 10 million times, they will not be delivered. That is Sri Gaurasundar's instructions and words of chastisement towards the adverse living entities. In the Dwarka Mahatmya, it is said, quote, Lord Hari, the super soul of the entire universe, is never pleased with the miscreant who insults a Vaishnava, even if he has worshipped Vishnu for hundreds of births. And in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Adikanda, text 169, the translation, therefore the Lord has given me an appropriate punishment so that I may not commit such a sin in the future. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta again, with the imitative Prakrita Sahajas, Sampradayas in mind, Haridas spoke the following words of instruction. Quote, a Vaishnava, as a Vaishnava, I will never again hear blasphemy against Vishnu and the Vaishnavas under the shelter of Trinar Apisunichena, or on the pretext of Taror Apisahishnuna. I have I had I have had a sufficient lesson this time. The Lord is most merciful. He taught me by awarding a token punishment for a grave offense. Due to misfortune, the Prakrita Sahaja Sampradayas who are offenders of the holy name cannot understand the actual purport and substance of this statement of Thakur Haridas. So anyway, it's a very deep subject matter, uh, but the principle is that one has to be very, very careful, as especially with what we have received, that is the very principle that will protect us through the rest of our life, to actually being able not only to have a fulfilled life, both materially and spiritually, but actually to elevate ourselves to self-realization, to Krishna consciousness. That very same gift, we have to be very, very careful, very mindful to carry out the instruction that is being given us by Guru and Krishna, very careful how to proceed in this path of devotional service. Because if somehow or other we make offenses, these things can cause havoc in our path back home, back to Godhead. That being said, then there's Lord Nityananda. And the glories of Lord Nityananda is something quite inconceivable, because we in general pray to Lord Chaitanya. This is Srila Rupa Goswami wrote this prayer. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. That Lord Chaitanya is Mahavadanyaya, that there is no incarnation most magnanimous than Lord Chaitanya. Because he gives freely to anyone and everyone this actual, the highest gift of the highest position that can be obtained by any living entity, which is entrance into this Braja Prema, the love of the residents of Vrindavan. Is something that is so inconceivably high that even the goddess of fortune, as is explained, Lakshmi Devi, had to really work and was not able to enter into that space. And then there it is. Any one of, conditioned souls, like entangled in this horrible cesspool of material life, we have the opportunity to enter into that. So the position of Lord Chaitanya is quite inconceivable in terms of his magnanimity. And therefore he's glorified. He's glorified. It's the most munificent, magnanimous form of the Lord. It's the combined, is the Supreme Personality, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, in the mood of his most magnanimous manifestation of Srimati Radharani. Now, the most merciful manifestation of that most merciful incarnation is Lord Nityananda. If you can understand, we can understand this. Lord Nityananda is expansion of Lord Chaitanya, in which the most merciful, that most mercy manifests in its highest position in the form of Lord Nityananda. That's how Lord Chaitanya extends that most magnanimous mercy through Lord Nityananda. So one can say that Lord Nityananda is this most magnanimous manifestation. And we can see that in the pastimes of, the pastime of Jagai and Madai is the one that clearly defines, it graphically show the world the position of Lord Nityananda. Because Lord Chaitanya was ready to kill these two miscreants. But Lord Nityananda appealed to Lord Chaitanya. And there's something very distinctive about this inconceivable manifestation of mercy of Lord Nityananda. That there's this very unique qualities that, some of the acharyas define it as, there's one thing about the magnitude of that um, mercy that is manifested by Lord Nityananda, and there's also a what drive Lord Nityananda. What is the motivations that this is a very important feature of Lord Nityananda's activities and actions and the manifestation of his mercy. And there's also the transformative, like almost magical transformations that Lord Nityananda, by his mercy, is able to manifest in the world. So the magnitude is something in the past, and so Jagai and Madai, it becomes, very, very graphic, because the fact is that even Yamaraj, it is explained that these two were so sinful. I mean, so incredibly sinful that the secretary, the Chitragupta, the secretary of the scribe of Yamaraj, who kept all the records, it was overwhelmed by this fellow. And when Lord Nityananda, by his mercy, freed these two, then Yamaraj was, like bewildered. Like, I mean, amazed. He was completely astonished by the magnitude of this mercy, something that you don't see. That people of that type of level of sinfulness, is able to receive this type of benefit. Like, they don't match. It was, something that astonished you. How has it happened? But it happened. It happened. So the magnitude um, of that mercy is completely unprecedented in the whole cosmic manifestation, the whole history of this whatever universe, like that. And then when we talk about the motivation, it's just very wonderful. It's this combination of uh, compassion and Lord Nityananda's ambition. So what is the compassion? We know, Lord Nityananda, along with Haridas Thakur, has only one thing in mind: to give people Krishna consciousness, because that's the desire of Lord Chaitanya. But when we think about his ambition, when he decided We, he sees that these two most simple, dangerous persons, and he says, that if they become devotees, then the glories of Lord Chaitanya will be known for the whole world. So his ambition was about glorifying Lord Chaitanya. That was his whole motivation. So the combination of that sort of ambition to actually uh, give Lord Chaitanya the greatest glories, the greatest glorification, not the greatest glory. The greatest glorification was what driving Lord Nityananda. Combined with his compassion, then is this wonderful feature. And so that manifestation of compassion with that ambition of glorify Lord Chaitanya, then Lord Nityananda, even when he was attacked viciously by one of the brothers, I think Jagai was the one who hit them with the pot and hurt him. Then there is this famous phrase that Lord Nityananda uh, said to Jagai. He say, "Shall I stop giving you love because you have hit me with an earthen pot?" So there's a Bengali verse that is described in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Merichis kolsh, I don't know Bengali. Merichis kolshir kana tai bole ki prem devon bad Bengali. But anyway, should I stop giving you love because you had hit me with an earthen pot? This was Lord Nityananda's expression to this criminal. So this blend of compassion and ambition. And that's something that is a defining feature of the followers of Lord Chaitanya. And to fulfill the desires of Lord Chaitanya, to fulfill the purposes of Lord Chaitanya, that is the ambition of all the Vaishnava devotees. And combined with this compassion towards the world. And the last one is this transformative magic that is there, that is real, because especially the transformation that happens with Jagai and Madai was something quite incredible. The fact of both of them, especially Madai, building this god in Mayapur uh, by the Ganges, so the pilgrims can come and take bath. Now, part of the program that they have, they fully adopted this mood of repentance. And not only facilitating the devotees or the people of Mayapur to be able to perform their religious duties by creating a god so they can take bath in the Ganges, but they will stay there and serve the devotees and personally, by each one, beg them forgiveness from the things that they did before. And there were certain people that were so offended and they maintain in their hearts some hatred towards Jagai and Madai, that even when they asked for forgiveness, they couldn't give up their anger. And they would take stones and start to throw it at Madai. And he wouldn't do anything. he will pick the stone and give it back to the person and say, I deserve worse than that for the things that I have done to you. So please throw again. So, so that was their mood. So the transformation that they have is, is deeply and even magical in one sense, because to go from those streams to something to those streams is quite something, quite incredible. So Jagai and Madai, by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, Shishigornitai, they became the emblems of this Trinara Visunichana principle. And therefore, they were able to chant the holy name very, very hard. Anyway, I have to go and do some cooking downstairs. And I stop here. Any comments or questions? We have a couple of minutes. And the microphone is right behind you guys, a lady there.
I feel like this is a question that comes up a lot, and I still don't quite understand it when it comes to like being able to understand Krishna's desire versus our desire. And you have mentioned, you know, that Krishna fulfills, you know, if there's a certain way that we want to go, then he'll also give us the intelligence to be able to go that way. So in that, like how do we understand when it may be our desire, but it's also like the desire of the Supreme Lord too?
You know, the safest way is that you become connected to an advanced devotee, to the spiritual master. I mean, we're depending on the spiritual master. And if we apply the the principles that Krishna gave us in the Bhagavad Gita on how to relate to the spiritual master, this pariprasnena sevaya, that we do these three things. We ask questions, we serve, and we're submissive. So if we constantly confirm with the spiritual master, and it doesn't need to be even your Shiksha Guru, but there's also Diksha Guru. No, sorry, not only the Diksha Guru, but also Siksha Guru. People that you trust, that they advance and they can advise you, and you can reveal your mind in confidence and say, I'm thinking like this. You confirm. So we have to have those type of relationships. Now the question is, sometimes you see this with the spiritual master. I mean, we see it. We all experience in one sense that at times we may approach a spiritual master and say, Guru Maharaj, I'm thinking like this. I would really, I like to do like this. And then the spiritual master, my Guru Maharaj, has mentioned this, and we read it also in Srila Prabhupada's case, that they say they go along. They say, okay, you can do like this. So they give some instructions on how to do it. And sometimes my Guru Maharaj explains that if I tell you no, then you will still do it. So instead of putting you in a situation that you're going to disobey the order of the spiritual master, then I will gonna tell you how to do it, how to go ahead and do what you want, but here's some instructions to follow. But if we don't do that, If we don't have that type of connection with the spiritual master and faith on the spiritual master, or at least some spiritual mentor, then you're going to be concocted, you're going to be seeing things, and you're going to be confirming on your own. It's all on the mental platform. And then you just take off. And the further you go, the most difficult it becomes, to turn back. And the only way you're going to turn back if you're sincere is that you go into a head-on crash. Krishna will just completely smash you. You go crashing, and then when you're all like, you know, all beat up, and then you're ready to hear. Happens the saving grace. If you're gonna take off, just don't offend the body. When you offend the devotees out of pride, out of all, arrogance, all these things, then that becomes almost impossible to, to turn back or to get Krishna's mercy. And if you take off and you're careful not to offend the devotees, you understand, I'm taking off because I have a weakness in my heart, and I need, I'm overwhelmed, so I'm going this way. But I know devotees, they do, I appreciate and admire them that they're able to hold. I can't. I'm going this way. Hare Krishna. Appreciation, appreciation. I'm going this way. Krishna will bring you back very, very easily, you know. But if I, go and out of pride, start to insult devotees, dismiss this one, undermine that one, whew, it becomes very, very, very difficult. And it's escalating too. So the answer is, you want to be safe, you establish strong relationship with, a spiritual authority, someone that you trust, someone who is bona fide and is advanced, and you follow submissively. Reveal your heart without fear that you're being, like, oh, but with faith. No fear, faith. Faith in the principle. It's Krishna's system. It's perfect. And understanding too, that the spiritual master, as representative of Krishna, has your best interest and will be able to understand your situation and give you instructions according to your situation. So that's safe.
One last question, on the topic of like offending devotees. So when you have a devotee who may have made a lot of offenses to other devotees, but then they have that like repentant heart, like Jagai and Madhai had, then if even in that forgiving heart and they're wanting to correct it, the devotees may still hold that anger, like those who were offended by Jagai and Madhai were. Then does Krishna still hold that against those particular devotees, or is there still some grace in that repentant attitude?
Yeah, it's the mercy of the devotees. Devotees are usually very kind, and if a devotee takes you back, then Krishna will take you back. It's like Lord Nityananda, Lord Nityananda, regardless, even with that type of physical sort of transgression, he still took him. I'm still, you're still mine. And then, Krishna immediately, the, he accepted like that. So, and a devotee can be our saving grace, even if we go into that offensive thing. The difficult part will be is, um, there have to be something that wakes one up. If one is a devotee, it's always going to happen. If it's not in this lifetime, it will be in the next one. Krishna will, when Jagai and Madai was when Lord Chaitanya pulled out this, and they were facing death, you know, then wake up. With each one of us, there will be something that will show us, you know, depending on how big your pride is, even at the time of death, some, that time you'll be able to wake up. Something will wake us up. Krishna will do that. Because once you're a devotee, you're a devotee. Krishna says that's indestructible. Even a little thing that you do, you always be with you. So, um, so it will happen. We just have to, for ourselves, we just, make sure that you be very conscious of trying to follow Krishna's system, and be aware of pride, especially. It's a terrible type of propensity that destroys everything, even worse than lust, in one sense. Because lust is some weakness of heart, but pride is some darkness in the heart. And pride can lead you to so many different things that are dark. Lust is weak. You're just weak towards material sense gratification. Obviously, also it's something that leads you to hell, but pride is very, very, very hideous. All right. Thank you so much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.